Welcome. My name is Mark Bagley and I'm going to walk you through using the DTG Fact Finder in this video. The Fact Finder is a factual approach for comparing different DTG printers and can be downloaded at garmenttools.com. So what exactly is the Fact Finder? This is a 3-page chart that can be used for prospective DTG customers, so that way they have a systematic approach or a well thought out planned approach to asking questions about different DTG printers they may be interested in. And the Fact Finder helps you focus specifically on the facts so that way you can compare one printer to another. The DTG Fact Finder will go through the following different areas. We'll talk about the machine or the printer itself, the inks, the print heads, printing production, maintenance, accessories, and then the actual manufacturer of the printer. So let's start off with the machine. When we talk about the machine, we're going to talk about the size of the printer. You want to know what the length, the width, and the height of the printer is. And you want to know if you have to get access to any of the sides or the back of the printer as well. All of this falls into the overall space that you're going to need for the actual DTG printer. The important thing also to look at this is how big is the printer and getting that into your shop. So if you're using a large production printer, you need to make sure that you have doors that are large enough to get in the printer. Sometimes the printer can be broken down or turned on the side. Other times it has to come straight through and require double doors or a roll-up door. You also look at what the overall maximum printable area of the printer is. So that's going to be, the length and width of the printable area on your plat. You'll look at what the suggested MSRP price is. I state the suggested and I don't state just what the trade show or special price is, because I tell people to take their time, make sure that when they go through this decision process they don't get caught up on saving $1,000 or getting a free heat press or other type of curing device or a discount on a pre-treater, because you need to really make sure that you get the correct printer for your business. So that's why I always say state what the actual suggested price is. Look at the weight of the printer. If you have a shop that's going to require you to move the printer around a lot, or if you're going to try and take the DTG printer out on the road, obviously the weight of the printer is going to be a key aspect to it. And then how long has this printer actually been in the market? I like to bring this one up only because the overall technology using DTG is still fairly new. So some people are more adept at being beta testers or being one of the first to get a DTG printer, and other people may not. So it's important to understand where they are. A lot of people also will like to have newer technology, so they don't want technology that's 2 or 3 years old. So understanding how long the specific DTG printer has been in the market can be also very valuable. Another key part to purchasing a DTG printer is looking at the ink delivery system. Understanding what types of inks are being used, most of which nowadays are water-based inks, but also who manufactures that ink, where's the ink coming from, so that way you have a readily available source to that ink, and what type of delivery system is being used. There's several different types of delivery systems, whether it be a closed system versus an open system. And a closed system is what your standard desktop printers typically come in, where the ink is in a sealed cartridge. In an open system, the cartridge or bottles that are being used as the ink reservoirs are actually open and you can refill them, whether it have a little plug on the top and you use a funnel, or if it's just a bottle that you unscrew the lid and pour more ink into them. There are different opinions out there of whether one system is better than the other. Understanding the pros and cons of those systems is definitely important to understand. A lot of people get caught up in what's the cost of your ink, and sometimes they'll say what's the cost of the ink per liter or per a specific cartridge size. What I like to focus on is more of what's the cost per a standard print for my company. So that could vary from one company to the other, but choose a size and choose a specific same piece of artwork so you can determine really what that cost per print is. The reason why I focus on cost per print, different inks have different viscosities, and the lower viscosity inks require more ink consumption. So comparing a lower viscosity ink's cost per a liter might not equivalent to the same as a cost per print when you're using a higher viscosity ink that requires less ink to be used. You also want to look at what's the shelf life of the ink. So most CMYK inks typically will last a year or maybe less. A lot of the white inks have a shorter lifespan, could be 6 months or even less. So understanding what your shelf life is on the ink, what do you have to do with that ink while it's actually on your shelf? Especially with the white ink, the ink has the ability to separate. You want to make sure that the pigments or the titanium dioxide that's actually in the ink stays in suspension. Another hot topic is environmental friendly, and understanding whether your direct-to-garment ink is environmental friendly and you're allowed to market it as that using some type of certification by the DTG ink manufacturer. It becomes a bigger issue when you get different government regulations that state you have to have some type of certification or testing in order to sell products to a specific market. For example, children's in the Children Protection Safety Information Act. The final thing on the inks is what colors are available. Typically, the standard colors are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, or CMYK, and then white. Hopefully in the near future we'll start to see more expanded color gamuts using light magenta, light cyan, light black, or red, orange, green, and other colors that will expand the actual printable color gamut. The print heads is a pretty important area to look at when trying to compare different DTG printers. And some of the things you want to look at are how many print heads are actually in a printer. Some of them only have one printer, others have more than one print head. So you want to look at it and see, is this a one print head with multiple channels separating it, or is there one print head with only one channel in it? And the print heads itself are a consumable item. Over time, depending on what type of print head you get and how you use or maintain your printer, that time frame could be as short as 3 months, could go well past a year, depending on all of several different factors. But understanding how long a printhead is supposed to last and the numbers that you have, so you can build that into your replacement cost. Also, who manufactures that printhead? There are different printers out there that are sold, and some have access to the printheads that are being used for that specific model direct from the manufacturer. Others of them don't have direct access to that. So if you're purchasing a printer, you need to make sure that whoever you're purchasing it from has direct supply from the actual manufacturer of the printhead. Also, different printheads can come in different DPI resolutions. A lot of people get stuck up and try and find the highest printable resolution printer out there. And if you're definitely printing a lot of photographs, you want to look at a printhead that has a higher resolution. Something over 1,000, typically 1200 by 1200 or 1440 by 1440 will do more than what your expectations will need. But you also need to understand that we're not printing on a flat substrate. We're actually printing on a t-shirt that's made of woven fibers. So we're not going to be able to hold the high resolution that you would find with a flat piece of photo paper. So don't get caught up in absolutely having to have the highest resolution DPI, because you won't really be able to hold that high level on an actual garment. Look at what your replacement costs are on the print heads itself. And can the print head either be refurbished, or can you purchase a refurbished print head? All of these factors, because they are consumables, and depending on the number one of that you have in the printer, you want to plan or budget for when the time comes to replace that based on a reasonable expectation that you've worked that into your price for your financial budget. In regards to printing production, when I talk about printing production, I mean the complete process for the minute you get the artwork until the actual final product has been ready to be given to the customer. That includes everything from what type of things do we have to do to the artwork to make it so it's ready to be sent to the printer. Whether that includes changing the color mode, whether CMYK or RGB, setting it up so that way it's ready to be recognized by the printing software to know where to print white ink and where not to print white ink, and all of the different settings that go for the different RIP or driver software. That's just on the computer side. We'll also look at the application methods and the cost and the different types of pre-treatments that are available. Anytime you print with white ink, you're going to use a pre-treatment. And how is that pre-treatment applied? There are printers that have the pre-treating capabilities built internally to it. Other printers have the use of an external automatic pre-treater, and in some cases some printers will sell the customer a high volume low pressure sprayer where they'll manually apply the pre-treat fluid to the garment. The pre-treating process is one of the things that, in my opinion, isn't discussed enough prior to the sales process, and that the actual prospective customers really need to truly understand how important pre-treating is, because it's the foundation of your print. And if the pre-treatment process isn't done correctly, your print's either not going to look good or it's going to wash off. So understanding all the steps of how to apply, how to cure the pre-treatment, and then loading the garment onto the actual printer. It's important to understand that from the bottom of the print head to the top of the substrate needs to be at a kind of specific height or a very small range of a window of a height. That way you get the best or optimal looking print. So in some cases, some printers require the use of hoop rings or clamps to make the actual garment sit real flat. Other printers have a larger gap depending on the type of print head that's being used. So it makes it easier to print over seams, buttons, zippers, and other items. We'll also look at the curing method of how do we cure the ink that we print onto the shirt. In some cases that means using a heat press, and other inks will allow us to use a conveyor dryer, and in some cases they give you the options of either using a heat press or a conveyor dryer. But knowing what those steps are, including the time, temperature, and pressure on a heat press, or the temperature and dwell time on a conveyor dryer. And if you're going to use a heat press, are there other items that we need to use, like a parchment paper or silicone paper on the top of the print to make it so it looks the best? Do we have to hover the press before we actually physically close the press to make it more of a better looking overall print? These are all of the items that are brought together for the total production time. Look at every one of these steps to do one print, and then look at the time it takes for that and compare that to the time it takes 12 prints. Some printers are designed to do a one-off print very quickly. Other printers are more of a production, and they actually will produce 12 prints faster. Figure out which one's the most important for your company. Are you going to do a bunch of one-offs? There's a chance that you're going to do 48 shirts in a run. These are things you'll need to look at. In regards to maintenance, in my opinion, there's two different types of maintenance. We have our daily maintenance, and then we have a periodic or weekly maintenance. And it's important to understand exactly what those steps are before you make the purchase of a DTG printer. So clearly either being shown or watching a video on what are the steps, and understanding all of the costs associated with doing both the daily and the periodic maintenance. The daily maintenance is every day, minus the days that your business isn't open, that you're going to have to run the printer. What do we have to do to start the printer up? What do we have to do to close the printer at the end of the day? Figuring out what those steps are is your daily maintenance. Periodic maintenance is typically something you do once a week or once a month, whether that means flushing the ink lines to make sure that you have a good flow of ink and that there's no buildup of pigments on the internal tubes of the ink. What other types of maintenances or other parts are you going to have to periodically replace is also important to understand. So is there an encoder strip or a wiper blade that you're going to have to replace? And if there is, what's those cost? How often do they have to be replaced? All of this falls underneath the maintenance section. The accessory section just talks about other items that either come with your printer or are available for purchase, either directly from the manufacturer or from aftermarket sources. And typically these accessories are more of the platens that we use to print on different substrates. So which ones actually come with the purchase of the printer? Typically they'll start off with an adult platen, or maybe it's a printer that allows for multiple platen setups. But which ones come with it, and then which other ones are available? Some of the more popular platens that people have used are a youth or child platen, a baby infant, a long sleeve platen, a hat platen, a platen that allows you to drop down the height of a zipper or buttons running down it for a polo shirt. And then there are different types of specialty platens, which can range from everything printing on to shoes, canned coolies, a wraparound platen that allows you to print from the front of the shirt wrapped around to the back. Different items like that depending on whatever type of printing on substrates that your specific business model requires or you think can be very beneficial. Look and find out which ones are available. Find out whether it comes directly from a manufacturer or an aftermarket source. The final section we'll talk about is actually about the manufacturer. When we talk about the manufacturer, it's important to understand the difference between a manufacturer and the distributor. In some cases, you could be purchasing direct from the manufacturer. In other cases, you'll be purchasing from a distributor that has a relationship with that manufacturer, and understanding what that relationship is. How long has the company that's selling you the printer been in business? What's their history? Are they really committed to direct-to-garment printing? How long have they been involved with direct-to-garment printing? How stable is the company? Are they really committed to direct-to-garment in the future? And where are they located? The location part, in my opinion, is very important because at some point in time, you're going to need some training and technical support and replacement parts. And having the ability to have somebody in your own country working in the same or similar time zone, understanding the same exact language being spoken, and being able to get those parts quickly without paying a fortune in shipping are very important. So understanding some general information about the background of the manufacturer is important. And in some cases like this, you might actually have to go and talk with actual users of specifically about the manufacturer. So that way you can get an independent analysis from them. Other things that I like to look about with the manufacturer is, have they produced other DTG printers? And if so, what's the track record of those other DTG printers? Were they printers sold successfully and used and have a good representation overall with them? Or are these printers itself something that had a lot of problems with it? You'll look also, where is the training being held for this? I always like to have the ability to be trained by a distributor or manufacturer in person, whether that be at the actual distributor, manufacturer, or supplier's training facility, or if it's done in your actual shop. One thing I'll mention about training in your shop is something that I recommend because you're using your equipment, your computer, all of that's all of your stuff. It's done in your space. The one thing I will say is if you do the training in your shop, make sure that you put out time to do the training and focus on the training. Sometimes people try to run their business while they're also doing the training, and they don't put the full effort into the training. With direct-to-garment printing, it's very important that you have a good understanding of all of the steps that are involved with DTG printing. And if you don't understand that, then it's very easy for you to actually potentially damage your DTG printer, or at least cause a high level of frustration because you won't be able to get the best looking prints. So if you're going to do in-store or in-house training, make sure that you dedicate time, whether the shop's closed, whether it's done on the weekends, however you can set it up. That way you can give the full attention to it. The final point about the manufacturer is at some point in time you're going to probably have some questions that come up, and you're going to need some type of ongoing technical support. So how is that technical support going to be provided to you? Can it be done over the telephone? And again, what hours of the day, what's the cost of the phone call, all of that stuff built into it. Is it done over the internet, whether it be online discussion boards? Are there online videos or PDFs? Can they send some type of email communication to me? Or even in a best case scenario, is there someone that's able to come out to my shop and actually troubleshoot a problem? These are all the things that you want to look about when you're looking at different manufacturers to make sure that you buy a printer from a manufacturer that you know is going to be reliable and will be there for you. I'll wrap up the video with some final thoughts. These are similar thoughts that I shared in the previous video, and that this is a large investment. Take your time. Don't get rushed into purchasing something because of a show special or a discount on some type of curing or pre-treating device. Don't listen to just the sales reps. Obviously talk to them because you got to get some information from them, but also go out and talk to actual users. Search out users of the same machine on different industry forum boards. Ask the actual sales reps if they have people that they can talk to that use the printer and that are located near you. Make sure you understand every step in the process. That includes everything from what you have to do to the artwork, all of the pre-treating steps, going through the curing process, and actually maintaining the printer. Get some sample prints of your artwork done and make sure that you're present while those are being printed so you know exactly what do they do to your artwork to make the print look like the way it is on your sample shirt. How many times do they actually have to print the artwork to get the sample the way that you like it? Show that exact sample to your customers to make sure that your customers like it as well. I also strongly encourage all DTG users to periodically perform print and wash tests. It's important because that final product is basically your company's reputation. So it might look good when it leaves your shop, but if you didn't perform the pre-treatment or curing process correctly, the minute it's washed, the print quality might degrade. And you wouldn't know that until after it's already left your shop. So that's why I say it's very much your reputation. So by performing a periodic print and wash test, you're making sure that all the settings that either you or your employees are doing are making the shirts as best as possible. And the final thing before closing the deal on any DTG printer, make sure you get everything in writing. Make sure you know exactly what the warranties is, what level of tech support that you and whoever's selling you the printer expects and understands. If there's any type of guarantee, anything like that, make sure all of that's in writing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to download the DTG Printer Fact Finder from www.garmenttools.com. Thanks and have a great day.